I grew up in Yakima, Washington, which is right in the center of the state. And it was a period of Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best, which basically tells you I'm no spring chicken. You know, I had a great family. A lot of cousins lived close to us. It was a really fairly good childhood.
My mom's always been a writer, so that's whenever I was in grade school early on, and teachers would ask, what did your parents do? My dad's an electrician, my mom's a writer, but I never really knew what being a writer meant, and that was all through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then when I was in third grade is when my mom sold her first book. And I remember coming home that day. She was real excited. She was screaming, "I sold the book, I sold the book." And even then when she said she sold the book, I didn't even know what that meant.
In the 12th grade, the high school principal interviewed each one of us senior girls and asked us what we intended to do with our lives. I had known from the time I was 10 that I wanted to write books. I had never told anybody that for fear that they would stomp all over that dream, and it was so fragile that I was going to write books. And so I told her that, and this sort of pitying look came over her, and she kind of leaned forward towards me and she said, "Debbie, maybe you should consider something more suitable to your intelligence level. I know your mom's a waitress. Why don't you consider that?"
We went to a private school, and every day my prayer request would be that my mom would sell a book. And so I remember when she sold her book, I don't remember exactly what was going on at the house. I just remember how I went back to school and told everyone, "My mom sold the book, my prayer's been answered." Typical morning, Mom would wake us up and get us ready for school, and we'd have breakfast as kids, and she'd have all our lunches lined up on the counter ready. As we head out the door, she'd give them to us, and Mom stayed home. Dad was usually probably gone already off to work because I don't remember him being there in the mornings. And then we would come home from school, and Mom would have our afternoon snack out for us, and then we would sit down and do homework and play, and then she'd cook dinner and we'd come inside.
So we rented a typewriter, and I can still remember Wayne and I going down to the office supply store to get the typewriter and weighing the cost of an electric one with a manual one and deciding we really couldn't afford the electric one, and besides, where would I put it? Where would I plug it in? So we chose the manual typewriter and we put it on the kitchen table, and the two older kids would go off to school, and
she would pull out her typewriter and put it on there and start typing away. I clearly can see it as though it was just last month.
She always did that while we were at school, and then she would clear the typewriter away and have her time was working while we were at school, and then when we were home, she was Mom.
The kids had a really hard time sharing that typewriter with me, and summers were dreadful. And I had to come up with a way of keeping them entertained and letting them know they were the most important people in my life. My typewriter I loved, but they were far more important. And so we kind of struck a deal. In the summers, the mornings were theirs. On Mondays we baked bread or cookies or brownies or whatever, but we cooked. We did Science Day, we did Library Day, we did Letter Day when we wrote and created our own things. And then in the afternoons after lunch, I would take them to the swimming pool, and they had 2 hours at the pool, and I would race home and write ferociously and then race back and pick them up. And I think over the years that they understood that this was important to me. And although I wasn't contributing anything to our family income, I was teaching them some really valuable lessons about their own lives, about their own futures, about believing in yourself and the power of a dream, and standing up to rejection, and going after what you want even though it seems like nobody wants you.
When Mom first started writing, she sold category romance. This was back in the days when they would send 4 books out to a reader, and they would read them and they'd get them monthly. So it was kind of a subscription model, and maybe in a few grocery stores. So she had to write a lot. She was writing maybe 6 books a year just to keep a writing career going. This was really the only way for women back in the 80s to break into publishing, and so kind of through the door of category romance.
There was a lot of years when she would write and nothing was there. But then she continued at it. she followed her dreams. I think that's the most important, that, you know, the reader knows that, you know, she just didn't, this isn't an easy thing for her. She worked hard for it.
There was a time I'd been writing for about 2.5 years, and I had written 2 manuscripts, and I really loved what I was doing. I just felt this happiness to be able to be a writer. And Wayne working construction, and it was winter, and oftentimes winter were lean months for construction work. And he had been out of work for several weeks, and he went in to pay bills. And of course, the only income we had then was his unemployment check. And he came out and he said, "Honey, I am so sorry, but I can't make the car payment this month. And I know you want to be a writer, and but I really need you to get a job." You know, I just laid in bed and I prayed, and I gave that dream. I said, "God, you gave me this dream, but your timing is perfect. If you don't want me to be a writer now, I can be a writer later." And so I had to surrender that dream. And it must have been about 3 or 4 in the morning when Wayne woke up, and he asked me, "Are you asleep?" And I said, "No, I haven't been asleep yet." And he says, "Well, honey, what's wrong?" And I said, "You know, I really think I could have made it as a writer." And he didn't say anything for a long time. And then he sat up and he said, "All right, honey, go for it. Go for it." Now, I wish I could say, you know, I'm so talented I sold right away, but it was another 2.5 years. And we made lots of sacrifices so that I could be the writer.